Thanks so much for doing this. I'm so happy to see you. And you're a female that has inspired me throughout my entire life. So I just love to hear more sort of about. So we talk about visionary building with Celeste, and I would love to hear about what a visionary kind of means to you.
Gosh, doing something and going in uncharted waters. I'm in the sports broadcasting field, and I always looked up to Susan Waldman, who does Yankees play-by-play, and Leslie Visser, who's the first female in the Football Hall of Fame, in the NFL Hall of Fame. And I thought they didn't have it as easy as I do, and I maybe not won't have it as easy as you did, and then on down the line of generations, but a visionary is someone who sees the end game and sees what they want to accomplish and goes after it without any fear.
But at the end of the day, it is a male dominated industry. What kind of hurdles have you had to overcome throughout your career?
It's interesting for me. The biggest challenge for any female in a sport, because I view it as a plus. I haven't come in contact with many haters in terms of, guys who won't give me interviews or guys who think I don't belong. I always feel like I just try and do the research and work as hard as I can, and then the rest will do the talking kind of thing. There's always hurdles. I think sometimes if if I were to nitpick and pick one, maybe, I mispronounce a name and it's that I don't know it. If someone else mispronounces a name, it's just slip of the tongue kind of thing. I think that's what you're up against a little bit as being a female in the sports broadcasting world, but that's okay. It's nothing we can't overcome. People have been generally wonderful to me.
And you described sort of your career so far, but I'd love to sort of hear about what inspired you to get into sports media and sort of your background.
I'm a DC Metro girl. I grew up in Northern Virginia. I was an Orioles fan my whole life, and then I later became a Nationals fan. But when I was watching Cal Ripken break Lou Gehrig's consecutive games played streak, it was unbelievable. I was 12 years old. They were playing the Angels. I can place myself in that moment. And it was that said, I just want to be a part of this. Whatever this is, this sports world, I want to be a part of this. And I just feel like if I could bottle that, I mean, it was a who's who in the stands. It was dignitaries, and it was, you know, think about 16 days without taking a day off. Think about that. Think about that for anyone. So it's pretty incredible. And that's always what I go back to.
I remember sort of just chatting with you when I started out with all of this stuff, moving to
Yeah.
whatever location, doing whatever you had to do. I guess my question would be, how did you stay motivated in those extremely difficult times?
It's a really good question, because I think with anything great comes a lot of hard work, right? My first job was in Minot, North Dakota. I was an overnight anchor, or I was an overnight, I'm sorry. I was the weekend sports anchor, weekday reporter. Before that, I was a overnight editor at a news station in Sarasota, Florida. So that's why I was thinking that. And sure, I mean, those jobs weren't the best hours and they weren't, the best pay, but I met wonderful, amazing people. Everyone in this business is hardworking and driven, and you get a little bit of something from everyone, right? You take a little piece of someone everywhere you go. So I always thought, I just want to tell stories. And you can relate to this because you and I have talked about this a lot. And I think that's what we're doing here, right? I want to know what makes people tick. I want to know why someone does something. I want to know the reasoning for, why someone gets up every day. And that's what kept me motivated. It was never about the on camera stuff or that, it was kind of getting to know and getting to talk to people as a job was a beautiful thing. And it still is.
I love that. Well, and then I guess in terms of advice that you have for the next generation entering the field of sports media, I know it's changing every day. So what
Yeah.
advice do you have for people kind of getting into it right now?
So my news director, his name was Jim Olson in Minot, North Dakota, always said, appear like a duck, calm on the surface, struggling like heck underneath. And that's always stayed with me. There are times when you're about to interview someone. This happens all the time. And it's on a big stage, right? And they switch the interview and you have 30 seconds to prepare. And you just kind of take your breath, kind of calm down. It's always going to work out. That's number one. Number two is always be prepared. Be the most prepared person in the room. You'll never fail. You'll never fail with that. And number three, be a yes person. I think this is really important. I think so often today, and this just in the workforce, right? You go to someone and you say, hey, do you think you could get this before deadline? And their immediate answer tends to the no side. Always say, I think we can make that work. Let me see. Instead of immediately going no. it opens up so much. It makes you be, I don't know, all your coworkers gravitate towards you. It's just a wonderful quality. I think we can make this work. And even if you can't say, gosh, that sounds like a good idea, let me see what I can do. It's in the positive. That's really, really important.
We talked about how the industry has changed so much. How have
Yeah.
you had to adapt?
It's a really good question. And I feel like I don't know if I've adapted so well. I think that for me, the number one quality in this business is authenticity. It just is. Are you authentically yourself? And I think the rest kind of falls in line. I think when you're watching TV, you always gravitate towards the people you feel like are warm, and authentic, and they're not putting on a front, right? And you and I always talk about that when you're presenting, or you're, you know, doing a highlight, or you're doing a stand up or anything like that. So I don't know if I've adapted. I've just felt like I've really tried hard to be myself. And I feel like as I get older, that's easier to do. Right.
You
Okay.
talk about remaining authentic as as a female and, in this male dominated industry, how has that been important to you and how have you what have you implemented in your routine in your daily
Yeah.
life to sort of keep that going?
I think that's a really good question. And I think the biggest struggle for me is social media. It always has been. I'm not a sharer by nature. I'm just not. I'm not doing things so I can share them. I'm doing things, and if I think that I can share, I'll try to do that. But I really struggle with letting the world into what I'm doing, right? Or letting my friends know. I don't know. I'm just not really good at that. I'm also never doing something very exciting that I would want to. But so I think that's the biggest hurdle that I've had to jump. And what I've done is, going with the authentic theme, I've just shared stuff that's me. I don't use filters or anything like that. You know what I'm saying? I just feel like young girls should just see who you are and what you are, and I think that's important. So I think that that's how I've kind of tried to like honor my true self, um, because I think that social media can be a bear, and I'm not very good at it. So I've tried to just do it my way.